I was having y'all but Rico from Street Scores. I'm back. I'm at like somewhere in the 90% back to normal. Still not all the way there, but I'm good enough at least to record a video and y'all actually see me instead of the cardboard cutout. So I was getting mixed reviews on that, but I just thought it was funny to keep doing it anyway. Y'all know how I am, but man, especially now that we're about to have a dead period until mandatory minicamp start in a few days, it's about to get real wicked, man. I'm about to get to these film sessions for the rookie class, but today we're talking about the Washington Commanders OTAs MVPs so far, because we still have one more session June 13th. We have mandatory minicamps June 6th through 8th, so make sure you be on the lookout for all of the breakdowns and clips that come from that from this channel as well. But we have another voluntary OTA June 13th as well. So far through the majority of practices, because again we only have one more day remaining as far as OTAs goes, I wanted to talk about who were the MVPs. We have 7 Washington stocks to buy right now. Who's rising and surprising? And we're talking about the stocks to buy. We're not talking about our best players in general. So we're ignoring established players. They don't count because we're trying to look at this as far as real life stocks go. You're trying to buy low and sell high. Terry stock is already sky high. You're not trying to buy a whole bunch of Terry stock right now. That's like trying to get in on Amazon stock at full price right now. We're essentially talking about players or things, concepts. It doesn't have to specifically be a player. Who's gonna play better or exceed expectations based on where people predict them to perform as of today? Who's gonna outperform their current expectations as of June 2nd? Because a lot of things are gonna change before we even get to training camp, let alone once we start to get to training camp. We have the joint practice with the Ravens, preseason, all of that type of stuff. Expectations will change, especially if a lot of these guys who we're talking about in this video continue to get better and better and progress and develop even further and to make even more plays as we get going. As of today, who's gonna surprise people? Whose stock is on the rise and you need to buy right now before it gets too high? But before we dive into all of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get notification immediately and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Again, make sure you stay tuned for all of the film sessions I'm about to work on. Like I've said, because I've been busy or I've been sick, any downtime I've had, I've been watching all 22 for these guys. I just haven't been able to find the time to actually sit down and do the actual film sessions, but they are on the way again because we kind of have a dead period until June 6th for mandatory minicamp. So within those few days, I'm gonna be working out content. I'm working on a projections for the defensive alignments. I'm working on a projecting the offensive line for the Commanders video. It's gonna be a lot of fun things happening before mandatory minicamps happens June 6th. So make sure you stay tuned and go become a channel member. And without further ado, let's get it.
You tell your family you're gonna be a commander.
All right, so our 7 stocks to buy right now. First up, we got to talk about Emmanuel Forbes, the cornerback out of Mississippi State, 16th overall pick, first rounder. And you would hope that this would happen. You would hope, and you almost feel like you would assume that with him being the 16th overall pick, a guy that now that they've come out with the video, it was obvious that we tried to trade up to an even higher pick to make sure that we got him. And then we felt lucky to even get him at 16th overall. Like I said, he's the Bryce Young of cornerbacks. If he weighed 190, 200 pounds, he would have never made it to our 16th overall pick in the first place. So we should be lucky that he's underweight and that he should be able to outperform those weight expectations anyway. But either way, he's a 16th overall pick for a reason. So you kind of go into the offseason workouts like he better do something. 16th overall pick, you better be ready to start and contribute immediately. But at the same time, he's even further ahead than a lot of us even expected at this point. I still feel like the stock is relatively low, even though I've been seeing non-Commanders fans, pages, and writers talk about him, tweet about him recently. I still feel like the stock isn't that high. I mean, I feel like a lot of Commanders fans still don't even really like Emmanuel Forbes like that. So while the stock is still low, you better buy in on it now before it skyrockets, because he's already in OTAs locking up, you could say, Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson. Well, it's impossible to lock those guys up, and especially with the type of practices we have right now, is voluntary OTAs. So we're not really running a real offense or defense. There's no full contact. They don't even have shoulder pads on. So a lot of this is simulated. It's not like a real exact reference and example of what will happen in real regular season games. I feel like the training camp practices against the Ravens is going to be our first time to really get a good look at that, to really compare ourselves against a really good team. But as of right now, I mean, Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson are different. Like I said, when it comes to off season and really just practices in general, when the offense is looking good, you kind of look at the defense a little sideways, like, are they performing well, or is the offense just that good? Same thing when the defense is making plays. Is the offense bad, or is the defense just that good? Well, again, like I've been saying for multiple videos now, I know Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson are great. And again, Emmanuel Forbes is not necessarily going to lock those guys up, but he's been having great days against them, most notably Wednesday, where there was a certain period in practice where he was making play after play against those guys. And I can't say he was locking them up, but he was strapping them up. He was having great coverage against those guys, as great a coverage as you can have. Because remember, Terry McLaurin was smoking Stephon Gilmore the year that he won MVP. And then he did it again when Stephon Gilmore played for the Colts, and he went up and made that crazy, technically game-winning catch to almost pretty much win the game for the Commanders. Like, that's an elite corner. And again, the year that he won MVP, Terry McLaurin was giving him the business. So the fact that Emmanuel Forbes looks good against him already, only just a few weeks in after being drafted, less than 3 months later, like, come on now. The stock is low. You better buy into it, because Emmanuel Forbes is going to be a great player for us. Jack Del Rio's already spoken highly of him, saying that he's a perfect fit and that he's already ahead of the game. And Ron Rivera and company, I love what they're doing with him. Jack Del Rio, the secondaries coach, all of those guys, they're playing him inside right now because they want him to experience what it's like to play inside. The game is faster. You don't have the outside boundary as an additional defender. You are on an island, like literally on an island inside. You have to be more physical and things like that. There's more to calculate. Your instincts and reaction time have to be quicker. Playing slot is a little bit more difficult than outside, especially mentally. And so they're giving him work on the inside just so that he can be a well-rounded corner. And if we need to, get versatile with the coverages and things like that, it's not like him stepping inside will be really foreign to him. But Ron Rivera, Jack Del Rio, and John Comm especially, I believe it was this morning, made it abundantly clear that Emmanuel Forbes is an outside corner, and he will start at outside corner when we get to the regular season, probably even sooner than that. But just know week 1 against the Cardinals, he will be starting at outside corner. We're playing him in the inside corner right now just so that he has great experience. They love the positional flex. They love versatility. That's why they're doing that with him. And the fact that he's balled out at either one, slot or outside. Now, granted, slot is going to be a little bit more difficult when we actually get to real football, because those weight concerns, as much as an Emmanuel Forbes fan as I am, and even though he looked great in the SEC as far as making plays against the run, when you play in the slot, you got to be a little bit more physical than his weight I could presume that he would be, but you never know. Maybe he could be. But either way, 16th overall, you're not drafting a slot corner there anyway. He's going to play outside, even just by his draft position where he was taken in the 2023 NFL draft that just happened. But either way, I love the fact that I'm hearing that Emmanuel Forbes is out here balling against the best of the best, because again, iron sharpens iron, and you don't have to question whether Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson aren't good. Those guys are great. So if Emmanuel Forbes is playing well against them, that means he's rising to their level, and this doesn't mean that they're coming down to his level. Again, you got to worry about that. Offense playing well, you're looking at the defense crazy. Defense playing well, you're looking at the offense a little crazy. You know Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson are doing their job. You know Curtis Samuel's out here breaking ankles and hasn't taken a step back or anything like that. They're still the most underrated receiving group in the NFL, in my opinion. So if Emmanuel Forbes is playing well, it means he came up to their level, not that they came down to his. I'm really excited about that, and that's big time, because not every first-round pick works out, man. And that doesn't even just go for the Commanders. That's in general. And the fact that he's out there looking like a first-round pick, an instant day-one impact, that's all you can ask for in a first-round pick. Really excited to hear that, man. I can't wait to see him with pads on, because I feel like he's going to prove a lot of people wrong. Can't wait to see him strapping up Odell Beckham and all of those receivers, Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, when we play against the Ravens in the joint training camp practice that we'll have, and the preseason game after that, man. I'm so excited for him to prove people wrong. And then next up, I have Cole Turner, man. Cole Turner's name has been buzzing lately, boy. Stock is rising. You may want to get in on it now before it gets too high. Now, it's still an element of I got to see it. Same thing with Emmanuel Forbes. He's an NFL rookie, so there's already I got to see it there. And then also with the weight concerns, you're still like, yeah, I got to see it with pads on and full contact if he can still continue to make the plays that he's making. But when it comes to Cole Turner, it's more so injuries and lack of development. Because last year, first of all, I just feel like Scott Turner didn't use them correctly. So I feel like there was an element of that. I also feel like it was a big element of bad QB play, no matter who we threw out there, until Sam Howell, the last game of the season. Even that game, even though there were a lot of really high highs there, it wasn't like it was the greatest QB game of all time. So we still got to, lower our excitement for even that Sam Howell game, last game of the season against the Cowboys. So just in general, QB play last year was quite awful until we basically got to that game for the Sam Howell game against the Cowboys. Either way, Cole Turner was just not utilized correctly, whether it was the quarterback's fault, the offensive line not giving the quarterback time's fault, or the offensive coordinator and Scott Turner's fault, and also his fault as well. He was hurt. His hamstring injury just lingered way too long. It was ridiculous. I mean, it's just hamstring issues typically don't bother somebody that long. It was crazy how long that lasted. Then even when he came back healthy, he just wasn't that good. He was getting mutilated and blocking assignments as far as trying to block edge rushes and things like that. He even got mutilated on a couple of special teams blocks. He was trying to have somebody ran through him, I remember, a couple of times last year. And then he just didn't look that explosive in the passing game either. But before that, he was looking like the MVP of training camp. Offensively, he was looking like the most unguardable, unstoppable guy there. We were already talking about, man, was this a 5th round steal? Arguably one of the best players we drafted last year. And then we got to the regular season, and that just wasn't the case yet. I'm not going to say it wasn't, period, because I still think Cole Turner has a lot of talent, and it looks like he's doing the same thing this year. I'm just hoping that it actually translates when we get into actual regular season games, because he's looking like another all-season all-star right now. So buy the stock low, because I have a really good feeling, especially under Eric Bieniemy's system, going from Scott Turner to Eric Bieniemy is a huge upgrade. Going from Carson Wentz and Taylor Heinicke from last year to Sam Howell this upcoming season, I feel like should be an automatic upgrade to a certain, I feel like there's a certain floor to Sam Howell that's going to be better than anything we got last year from the other two guys. And then I feel like his ceiling is even better. So I just feel like it's safe to say Sam Howell will be an upgrade over anything we got last year out of our QB room. Because again, those guys had QBRs in the 30s, like worse than some teams' backup. Sam Howell at the very least should be top 20. I feel like it's safe to assume that. And then he has the potential and the ceiling and the talent to be even better than that, like top 15, top 10. I mean, I'm not going to go out there and say that he will, but I feel like it's safe to say he will be better than anything we got last year out of our QBs. So I just feel like Cole Turner, as long as he's healthy and keeps developing and stays on the path that he is, I feel like he's going to be used very well by this offensive scheme. He's going to get the ball thrown to him, and we're already seeing it in practices. He's balling out. Eric Bieniemy, I mean, what he did it with Travis Kelce. If anybody can get greatness out of a tight end group, it's him. He just seems like a tight end whisperer. Now, granted, Travis Kelce is a dog, and you can argue Travis Kelce was a bigger reason than Eric Bieniemy why they were having so much success. But I still think Eric Bieniemy can take a lot of what he learned from being a coach for Travis Kelce and translate that for Cole Turner. Hopefully, Armani Rogers going into 2024 once he's able to come back healthy. Right now, Cole Turner is going to get all of that attention, all of that offensive stuff that I think is going to be split between Antonio Gibson, Curtis Samuel, and Cole Turner, who's going to get a lot of the touches, and the specific plays that were going to be designed for Armani Rogers are going to go to those guys. Cole Turner is one of those guys. And I mean, Logan Thomas, I'm hearing good things about him. Again, Ron Rivera and those guys feel like they were starting to see 2021 Logan Thomas towards the end of the last season, the 2022 season. Again, I didn't exactly see that like that, but they love Logan Thomas, and I'm hearing good things from him as well. But I'm hearing a lot more noise coming out of practices about Cole Turner as like our top receiving tight end right now, and that's huge. That's going to be big time. Again, he had that hamstring injury last year that was messing with him a little bit, and it kept him out way longer than it should have. And he was even missing preseason games, which is just ridiculous. But I feel like this year, if he's able to stay fully healthy, man, that's the guy. I mean, I'm hearing all kinds of quotes. I mean, Zach Selby said Turner had a 7-on-7 period that was really strong overall. He made an impressive grab working with Jacoby Brissett. He's also making great grabs from Sam Howell. So that's another thing. It doesn't matter if it's Jacoby Brissett, Sam Howell, whoever. Cole Turner's out there making plays against whoever as well. That just sounds like somebody that we can easily utilize, and this should be able to flash for us. He stretched out the haul in a pass near the sideline and got both feet in bounds. Turner has flashed at various points this offseason in a similar way that he did last year. Assuming he can stay healthy, Turner could be set for a big step forward. So I'm loving it's a lot of things. It's the fact that no matter who the quarterback is, no matter who the defense is, he's making plays, but also the scenarios between the 20-yard lines, middle of the field, the majority of the field. He's getting open against DBs, and then also the red zone threat that we thought he could be. He's showing that as well, making plays in the back of the end zone, tapping both feet in bounds with great coverage. He's doing everything that you want a receiving tight end to do right now. I'm a little bit surprised by how he's making plays throughout the middle of the field, even before we get to the red zone. That's a great surprise there. Then you also have Michael Phillips of the Richmond Times. He said, buy Cole Turner stock right now. Like I'm saying, the tight end wild in last year's training camp and has brought more of the same this year. He had a highlight catch on Tuesday on the sideline over Percy Butler, who played strong defense, but was no match for Turner's 6'6" reach and toe tap. So again, man, you just can't teach height. And that guy is able to utilize it the way that he should. Buy that stock early, man. I can't wait to see some Cole Turner. We need some great plays out of our tight end group, man, just to keep defenses off balance. Next up, Antonio Gibson, man. I'm telling y'all, he may not exactly be utilized in the way that people feel like he should be, like as far as getting all of the screens and stuff out of the backfield. That's more of a Curtis Samuel thing. To be the gadget guy is the best way to word it. Curtis Samuel is going to be your gadget guy. The guy that like Isaiah Pacheco, the way he was used last year, or even Tyreek Hill at times getting a bunch of screens and things like that. Antonio Gibson is taking over the JD McKissick role, but you got to remember, this guy is built like Brian Robinson as far as size and strength and muscle and things like that, but he runs a 4.3. It's just like Eric Bieniemy, even if he isn't what we hope he is, you got to be able to find some way to utilize that. So I feel like Antonio Gibson, buy his stock low right now because it's pretty low. After last year, Brian Robinson was drafted, and a lot of us still thought like, well, we drafted Brian Robinson in the 3rd round, but Antonio Gibson should still be like the premier back, right? Nope, Brian Robinson was clearly the primary back, and we just worked in Antonio Gibson when we could. And then even after drafting Chris Rodriguez in the 6th round this year, who's going to be another bell cow, eat a lot of carries type of running back, I think Antonio Gibson is going to be a mismatch against linebackers, man. Logan Paulson already reported that they have Antonio Gibson out here running choice routes, like literally like a receiver. Like he decides what route he runs based on the coverage in front of him. Like they're giving him all kinds of freedom, and he's going to be able to make plays, man, whether it's out of the backfield or he's literally out wide as a receiver. Eric Bieniemy is going to get really creative with this guy. Antonio Gibson is going to ball out. It's just hard to really buy stock on any offensive player on this team, especially when you're looking at it fantasy football wise, because we have so many talented guys, so many mouths to feed between Cole Turner, who you need to buy stock in now, Antonio Gibson, who we're talking about right now, Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel, Brian Robinson. All of these guys have to eat. Logan Thomas, all of these guys have to eat. Sam Howell, you can't forget, there's going to be times he takes off and runs himself. So that's taking away carries and touches from all of these other guys that are already just listed. So fantasy football wise, it's hard to really bet on anybody being a consistent, dominant force in fantasy football. But Antonio Gibson is going to keep defensive coordinators up at night. He's going to be a crazy chess piece, I feel like, from Eric Bieniemy. So buy the Antonio Gibson stock low right now, because a lot of people are unsure of that. But based on what I'm hearing so far from guys that have gone to practice and they've seen flashes of, oh man, this is Antonio Gibson's year. And you got to remember, Antonio Gibson is going into a contract year. Him, Curtis Samuel, and a few other players, man. It's a long list of guys. This is their final year of their contract, so they're fighting for that next contract. We're going to get the best we've seen out of them. First of all, just going from Scott Turner to Eric Bieniemy, going from Carson Wentz and Taylor Heineke to Sam Howell, like I already said, with Cole Turner. But also, a lot of these guys are fighting for this next contract. Antonio Gibson is one of those guys. So, man, expect great things out of him, man. He wants to be seen. He wants to be heard. He's going to be a bigger part of this offense than I feel like people think. Next up, 4th, we have Sam Howell. I feel like this was obvious, man. This guy's already ahead of where people expected him to be at this point in the season. Most notably, his footwork, his accuracy, a lot of things. It's never been talent. It's never been arm strength. It's never been speed, strength. It's never been what he was born with. It's always been catching up to the speed of the NFL, learning the offense. And granted, he's going into his 3rd offense in 3 years. UNC, Then last year with Scott Turner as a rookie, and then this year with Eric Bieniemy. He's having to learn 3 offenses in 3 years, which is not healthy. It's not the best thing to do, but Eric Bieniemy's not taking it easy on him. Logan Paulson has already reported that they're doing things in practice already at this point that they weren't even doing last year with Carson Wentz, or even years before that with other quarterbacks. Like, they're already into like advanced stuff. Like, Sam Howell already has the basics down, and we're just going into deep, complicated concepts, and we're having him having to make plays against the blitz. We're already sending exotic blitzes his way. We're throwing out all kinds of creative offensive plays and daring him to make mistakes and then correct those mistakes and things like that. We are taking the training wheels off of Sam Howell is basically what I'm trying to say. Everything, they're throwing the whole playbook at him, and they're expecting him to go out there and ball out. So it's a lot of mental stuff as far as that goes, but also technique. His biggest problem, you can argue, with him coming out of the draft last year, even in that game against the Cowboys, decision making, a lot of mental stuff, but also technique, and most notably footwork. And his footwork is already light years ahead of where it was last year. I've heard that from Logan Paulson, John Kahn, Mark Bullock, who does a lot of film breakdowns and things like that. Make sure you go subscribe to his Substack. Everybody unanimously is saying that this is a completely different quarterback, at the very least technique wise, from last year, and especially with him coming out of college and why he ended up being a 5th round pick. Then the reason that Chris Sims had him so low in his QB rankings last year and even going into this year. All of those footwork issues that a lot of people were worried about, it seems like he's cleaned up and corrected a lot of them, which has allowed him to be more accurate. It's allowed him to be a little bit better with his timing with receivers running their routes and things like that. It's insane. And then as far as him being a leader and stuff like that, I expected that. So we came into this season, especially this offseason, being optimistic about Sam Howell, but now we're starting to get some concrete evidence that he is special, which is huge. So buy the stock now while it's low, because a lot of people are not believers of Sam Howell right now. I believe Chris Sims had him rated as his 31st quarterback, like literally just a couple of, like, he's doing his QB rankings right now. He's not even done yet, but he already talked about Sam Howell weeks ago because he starts from the bottom and works his way up. We still haven't even seen like his top 10, I don't think, yet. So we're still like actively going through the list right now. And I think Sam Howell is 31st. The only quarterback lower than him is Desmond Ridder or something like that. The stock is extremely low. Somebody else from CBS actually had him like 30 something, like below all of the rookie quarterbacks and things like that, like Bryce Young, even below Anthony Richardson, guys that have yet to throw an NFL pass yet. The stock is extremely low. Us as Commanders fans, if you only talk to Commanders fans, you would think the Sam Howell stock was really high. But if you're looking around the NFL right now, either people aren't aware of him and aren't talking about him, or they're doubting him. So right now, Sam Howell stock is extremely low, going for pennies right now. Buy that, because he's gonna definitely, I feel like it's safe to say he's gonna exceed expectations based on where everybody has him ranked. With him being in the 30s in QB rankings, I feel like it's easily safe to say that he's gonna surpass that. And I think that we can be fairly optimistic about the fact that he's gonna be even better than a lot of us even think. I think he's gonna surprise a lot of people. We're gonna be a playoff team, especially with him at quarterback and Eric Bieniemy at offensive coordinator. Next up, you have Jartavius Martin, our 2nd round pick. I've been hearing nothing but great things about him. The only negative plays that I've heard from him getting beat, you can kind of say beat, is from when somebody else is just making a great play. It's not like he's out of position. It's not like he made a bad play. It's just somebody else making a better play. And especially, again, like I've said it in several videos. I believe I alluded to it earlier, but like literally with the way that practices are set up right now, involuntary OTAs with no full contact, no pads, no nothing like that. And we're running 7-on-7s. The less people on the field, the even bigger advantage that the offense has over the defense, because there's more field to cover for the defense. It's harder to cover in 7-on-7s than it is on 11-on-11s. More people on the field, the more convoluted and congested everything gets, and it makes it easier for the defense to defend. So with 7-on-7s right now, the fact that the secondary is making plays in 7-on-7s right now is really encouraging. Emmanuel Forbes and most notably Martin again. So again, the way that everything is designed right now, whether we're doing individual drills, one-on-ones, is literally designed for the offense to be better than the defense. Other than when we're doing our blitzing drills and our 7-on-7s, 11-on-11s, we're doing blitz concepts and things like that. And even then, the offense should still outperform the defense. It's just expected for the offense to be caught off guard the first days that we're doing it, which is what they kind of were when the defense started doing it for the past few practices that we've been doing it. But either way, the offense is literally set up to win against defenses. All around the NFL right now, the offense should look better than the defense if you look at anybody's practices. So at the end of the day, it's like, how much can you expect Quan Martin, Emmanuel Forbes, and all these guys to truly shut down people, especially as rookies? But I mean, everything I've been hearing, he's been making plays. He had one play where he had such great coverage. He took the ball in the air, and Cody Barton was able to get an interception off of the play that Quan Martin made. And again, the only time I've heard anything negative about him is that it's not even necessarily his fault. It's just great plays made by the offense. And again, without pads, with it being only 7-on-7s and things like that, the offense is supposed to win. So what do you expect? So again, buy this Quan Martin stock right now, because I've been hearing great things about him, man. They love him in the slot, starting at slot corner. They think he has the potential to easily start a slot corner even as soon as week 1 against the Cardinals. But they love what they've seen from him at safety, free safety, strong safety, anywhere. Quan Martin is going to be a guy that is really hard to take him off of the field no matter what you're doing. Whether you have Cameron Curl or Derek Forrest in the game, so Quan Martin can't play strong or free safety, well, you better pay him at slot corner. Or Kendall Fuller and Benjamin St. Juste and Emmanuel Forbes on the field, so those are your 3 corners. Well, you better play Quan Martin somewhere at safety. It's good. He's just one of those players that he's just so good at football and so versatile that he needs to be on the field no matter what the situation is. Goal line, 4th and 15, obvious passing down situations, obvious running down situations. Keep Quan Martin on the field. Buy the stock while it's low, because I feel like this guy, other than some of the other guys we talked about, where Emmanuel Forbes, if you ask Commanders fans, his stock is fairly high, but around the NFL is low. Same thing with Cole Turner. Probably the same thing with Antonio Gibson. Definitely the same thing with Sam Howell. If you only talk to Commanders fans, you think the stock is high. But if you look around the NFL, the stock is low. I feel like Quan Martin, even if you ask Commanders fans, his stock is low even amongst us right now. Well, I'm telling you right now, buy that stock, because it's going to skyrocket once we get to the regular season. Probably even before then. Training camp, we do those joint practices with the Ravens preseason. He's going to show you why he was a 2nd round pick, and some people felt like that was a reach. I'm telling you, we're going to be really happy that we had this guy. Next up, Bieniemy's impact is huge, man, and we're not even going to talk about scheme. We're not even going to talk about how much better this offense should be utilized. We're not even going to talk about how, instead of Logan Paulson did a great breakdown of it. Go check out their podcast, that he does with Craig Hoffman. He was basically breaking down like how, with Scott Turner, he would occasionally get his best players in certain mismatches so that he can utilize their skills as the best. Eric Bieniemy's entire offense revolves around that, basically. Like Terry McLaurin, doesn't matter. One of my biggest pet peeves with Scott Turner was the fact that he used the fact that Terry McLaurin is obviously our best receiver. So clearly the defense is going to scheme for him, so we're not going to throw it his way because they're clearly scheming for that. They're double teaming him, whatever. Eric Bieniemy's like, forget that. Terry McLaurin's our best receiver. Jahan Dotson's great. Antonio Gibson is a mismatch. Brian Robinson's a bulldozer. We're going to get the ball to these guys no matter what. We're going to find ways. If we got to do all kinds of motions pre-snap to create mismatches and get the defense in a situation where they got to hurry up and communicate because we just changed something at the last second before we snap the ball or whatever, we're going to do whatever we can. We're going to overload one side, a bunch of receivers and tight ends on one side, and force the defense to adjust. We're going to do whatever we can. So even ignoring all of that, just the passion that we're getting from this guy. He's the loudest coach on the field every day. And they say that he's been getting louder and louder as every day goes on because he's expecting more and more out of these guys. Just because he had high expectations day 1 and they were trying to meet those, just because day 2 they think they made it, no, the bar is even higher now from Eric Bieniemy. And they think they made it to that, no, the bar is even higher the 3rd day. He is not playing with them. He is on their head. He's not afraid to yell at anybody, get in their face and correct whatever need to be corrected. Even if it's something super small, as far as they got out of the huddle not quickly enough. They got out of there quick, but not as quick as I expect. Like, the expectations are going to stay where they are, and if anything, only get higher. He's not coming down because this is technically a redshirt freshman kind of rookie quarterback, because a lot of these pieces don't know each other. The offensive line is all kinds of jumbled up and completely new from last year, and the only returning starter who's going to play the position that he played last year as far as 2022. Charles Leno hasn't even practiced with us yet. There's no excuses. He's super zero excuses type of guy. So I just love the passion, the high expectations, the fact that he's yelling at people, and the yelling is working. That's the most important thing. He's not just yelling at people for no reason. It's producing results. He yells at people and then the problems get fixed. Like I said earlier, one of the first practices we had, like one of the very first OTAs practice, he was extremely upset and getting on everybody for getting out of huddle slow. And next thing you know, that's not a problem we're having anymore in practices anymore. Like, that's no longer a thing, us getting out of huddle slowly, getting lined up and adjusted slowly. Everybody's doing everything quickly with pace. He's not playing about it. He's staying on their head about it, all of that type of stuff. He's not playing like he's yelling out. These are exact quotes. Watch your body language. Like, it doesn't matter what you're doing, how you're producing. I need to see your body language looking a certain way too. If you made a bad play, keep your head up. If you made a great play, keep going, make more. Like, I love that. Another quote, we got to get up to the line of scrimmage. That's something he's been screaming about constantly. Also, quote, who's going to make the block if you don't? Unquote. And I believe that was towards a running back when he said that, because there was one play, I think either Brian Robinson or Antonio Gibson, somebody messed up a block and it would have been like a real good pressure or sack if it was a real game situation. And he wasn't playing about that. Just because you're a running back doesn't mean that you can get away with not making great blocks against starting edge rushers at the NFL level. We don't care about just because you're a running back. We expect greatness out of everybody. And then I feel like one of the best examples was the fact that Jahan Dotson, as great as he is, and as crazy of a situation as it was, he dropped a heavily contested catch. It was not an easy catch to make. Most receivers probably in the NFL don't even expect to make this catch. Eric Bieniemy, again, is different. It was a contested catch situation. Jahan Dotson didn't catch it. Eric Bieniemy yelled at him for it. Guess what? Jahan Dotson didn't drop another catch the remainder of that practice, and probably won't for the remainder of this offseason, the remainder of the 2023 year after that. Again, Eric Bieniemy isn't just yelling at people for no reason. It's producing results, man. People are better because of it. He's yelling at Sam Howell for every little mistake. Even if Sam Howell makes a great throw, if something was wrong in that play, if he read it wrong, if he didn't vocalize certain things at the line of scrimmage correctly, if his footwork wasn't perfect and things like that, it doesn't matter if it was a positive play for a first down or a touchdown. Eric Bieniemy is extremely micromanaging right now. He is expecting perfection and greatness. So Eric Bieniemy's impact is a huge stock buy right now, because again, if you ask Commanders Nation, we're all extremely high on Eric Bieniemy. But if you look around the NFL, different fan bases, different analysts and commentators, media members and stuff like that, they're still pretty low on Eric Bieniemy. They're going to give Pat Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Andy Reid the majority of the credit. They don't feel like, I mean, the same reason that Eric Bieniemy couldn't get a head coaching job. The stock is extremely low right now. Again, if you look around Commanders Nation, you would never think. But if you look around outside of Commanders Nation right now, the stock is extremely low on Bieniemy right now. Buy that stock, plenty of it. Max out on that, because he's going to make a huge impact on this team. And then next up, lastly, the seventh stock I have us buying low on right now before it skyrockets is the Washington secondary in general right now. Everybody. First of all, the versatility and depth is ridiculous, and I'm thinking that they're going to be able to compete. By the time we get to the regular season, especially early on in the regular season, after a few weeks, you're going to see it's going to be debates about what's the best position group on this team. Receiver, defensive line, and I think you're going to add secondary in there as well, and maybe Sam Howell will be good enough to where we talk about quarterback. But as of right now, man, secondary, I'm telling you, the stock is really low. Pretty sure if you ask a lot of Commanders fans right now, they wouldn't agree. So the stock is low even for them. And I'm pretty sure around the NFL, the stock is low as well. So I'm just trying to let you know why this stock is so low right now. A lot of people may be looking at me a little crazy like, nah, I know the secondary is going to be great. Nah, I know Eric Bieniemy is going to be great. I know Quan Martin, Sam Howell, Cole Turner, Antonio Gibson, Emmanuel Forbes are going to be great. Not everybody feels the same way. I'm telling you, the stock is low on a few of these things. And I feel like the secondary in general right now, the stock is even low amongst Commanders fans. And I'm telling you, these guys, it's looking a little different from previous years right now. Our defense has been solely dependent on our defensive line being the best defensive line in football. Well, now I think we'll even start getting some coverage sacks where the quarterback has nowhere to throw the ball to, nobody's open, and our defensive line is getting sacks because the secondary allowed them to. Usually it's been the secondary benefiting off of the defensive line. It's been a purely parasitic relationship so far. Now I think it's going to be a little bit more mutual, where the defensive line makes plays because the secondary was great. The secondary makes plays because the defensive line was great. I think it's going to be great both ways. I think this defense is finally complete. And I also think with Emmanuel Forbes' ball hawking ability, we're also going to be able to create turnovers as well, which is going to be really interesting. But man, you even have Terrell Burgess, a guy that we just signed off of the street, out here making plays and getting interceptions in practice. Right now, we're having a really good conversation to have. Who's our starting corners? Like Benjamin St-Juste and Emmanuel Forbes and Quan Martin in the slot? How do you bench Kendall Fuller? But if you don't bench Kendall Fuller, who you benching? You can't bench Benjamin St-Juste. He was out here looking good against Justin Jefferson. Like arguably did one of the best coverage jobs against him that he saw all season out of any corner that he went against. He did a great job against A.J. Brown, pretty much took him out of the game. You can't bench him. You're not going to bench Emmanuel Forbes, who's doing a great job against Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson already, and he's your 16th overall pick. Kendall Fuller isn't the starting slot corner. You don't want him in the slot for no reason, for any reason at all. You don't want Benjamin St-Juste really in the slot. You prefer him outside. He's clearly better there. Same thing with Emmanuel Forbes. So it just seems like by default, Quan Martin is your best slot corner that we have. So then again, back to my main point. Who are your two starting outside corners with 3 names available? But it's a good argument to have, because in previous seasons we've been like, man, how are we even going to throw 2 cornerbacks out there that are even worthy of getting playing time? Now we're trying to figure out who's even gonna sit down. So, hey, man, the cornerback position is really deep, is really versatile. We're far more athletic and fast and quicker than we ever were. Adding Quan Martin, Emmanuel Forbes, and even some of these undrafted free agents that we brought in, our secondary is way faster. I mean, even just Derek Forrest is a speed demon. Percy Butler is only getting better. Percy Butler and Derek Forrest have all of the athleticism and speed and quickness in the world. It's all mental with them, and the fact that they're getting better mentally, now their athleticism matters, because all of the athleticism in the world doesn't matter if you're not there mentally well enough for you to even be playable on the field. Now that those guys are starting to become more aware, IQ getting higher, reaction time getting better, more proactive rather than reactive, that athleticism finally gets a chance to show itself, because they're not, I mean, if you're behind mentally and you're 3 steps behind, doesn't matter how quick you are, you're late. But now if you're there mentally, yeah, athleticism takes over, it's over with. So the secondary is ridiculous. Percy Butler, I think, is going to surprise people. And then specialization. Again, going back to Benjamin St-Juste, man, this is something that we definitely have now, where Benjamin St-Juste can cover the bigger, stronger guys. A.J. Browns, Justin Jeffersons, DK Metcalfs, guys like that. Emmanuel Forbes, specialization, covering the shifty, faster guys, the quicker guys. Love Kendall Fuller, but you don't want him against a bigger receiver, and you really don't want him against a shiftier guy because of his lack of athleticism. Now we have Benjamin St-Juste for the bigger guys, Emmanuel Forbes for the faster guys, like Brandon Cooks, who just came over from the to the Dallas Cowboys. Sadly, he was literally the only offense the Houston Texans had against us, and he was killing guys, including Kendall Fuller, when we played the Houston Texans, even though he was the only real threat, and he still got busy against us. So now we have a guy that can shut that down. The really small, shifty guys, the Devonta Smiths. Emmanuel Forbes already says he wants smoke with him. He wants war with him, and they've already acknowledged each other. That's going to be a great rivalry there for a few years down the line, I'm hoping. So, man, its depth is, first of all, better starters, but also, most importantly, a lot of great depth as far as corner, safety, slot, everything. Is better athleticism, faster. We got stronger, faster, quicker, everything. And then we have better specialization. We have guys for any mismatch that we may have. Darren Waller, meet Benjamin St-Juste. And I'm not necessarily saying that Benjamin St-Juste is going to shut him down, but at least we have a guy with the build and the athleticism and the traits to stop that. We have a certain guy, no matter what you're throwing at us as far as an offense goes towards our defense, we have a guy that we're like, okay, you're better suited for that. We don't just have guys out there, just whatever happens like we've usually been doing. We're like, oh, you got a big, strong receiver? We got a guy for that. You got a small, shifty, fast route running receiver? We got a guy for that now. Whatever you're going to throw at us, we have a guy. We have an answer for any problem that you may present. So I love that about the secondary. buy that stock low. And then lastly, kind of like if he weren't hurt right now, this would be like an honorable mention, but Kazmir Allen, I was hearing a lot of great things about him, not even just special teams wise, but on offense as a receiver making plays. And another honorable mention will probably be Bieniemy Brown, who you may need to buy some stock in, because him and Sam Howell have a strong connection right now that they've been balling. I maybe should have included him, but I couldn't look at any of those guys I have on there right now. I wouldn't be able to replace them. I would have to extend the list to like 8, 9, or 10 guys to have Bieniemy Brown. I wouldn't replace any of the guys that I already talked about with the 7 stocks that I already have. I wouldn't replace any of them with Bieniemy Brown. But that is another name to keep track of. But most importantly, like I'm mainly talking about right now, Kazmir Allen, I was hearing great things about him. Now he has a hamstring issue. Hopefully it's not as bad and as lingering and lasts as long as Cole Turner's from last year, because that was kind of special. That was a special case. Hamstring issues normally don't last that long, so I'm hoping Kazmir Allen comes back sooner, but who knows? Because again, we just saw Cole Turner dealing with one for extremely long last year. I'm just hoping he doesn't repeat the same thing. But either way, man, return wise, I'm hoping as soon as we signed him, I'm like, okay, that's our Dax Milne replacement. Dax Milne is a solid punt returner, and he's safe. He doesn't muff punts, and that's the most important part. But I would love to bring in a guy that can do the same exact thing Dax Milne is doing, but add some explosion there on top of it. Kazmir Allen is that guy, and I was hearing great things from him. Not only special teams, but again, offensively, he was making plays as a wide receiver so far in practices as well. Before he got hurt, he was shining. So if he weren't hurt, he may have replaced one of these 7 that I had that we already talked about. But since he's hurt, I also just wanted to throw his name out there to remember, like, if you have some extra money on the side, you may want to put some money to the side to buy some Kazmir Allen stock once it's back up, because right now it's not available on Robinhood. It's down. But once they're back up for business, once he's back from injury, Kazmir Allen, you may want to go ahead and buy that stock while it's low as well. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please leave a like on this video if you liked it. If you learned anything, as always, man, I appreciate all the support, man. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors whose names you see scrolling on the screen right now, man. I really appreciate y'all. Let me know how you feel about all of these stocks that you need to buy, all of my MVPs so far through early OTAs. We still haven't even gotten the mandatory minicaps. We still haven't even seen Chase Young, Montez Sweat, and Charles Leno yet. So it's very early in the process. No pass, no contact, so it's really hard to really dive into and analyze and truly judge everything that's going on so far. But I have a great feeling about all of these. Again, let me know if you agree or disagree with any of these, any additional stocks that you may want to add in there as well, and I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.